G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another one of my EV realist videos. Firstly, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has watched and subscribed over the past few weeks. I've been completely blown away by the response to these videos and I'm incredibly grateful for your support. If you're new here and enjoy a regular dose of EV sanity to counteract the current atmosphere of EV madness, it'd be great if you'd drop a like, hit subscribe and click that bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And there are plenty of videos around that claim to bust a whole bunch of so-called EV myths in order to convince people that buying an EV is a great idea, when in reality, for the majority of people at this time, it's a terrible idea. So in this occasional series, I'm going to look at what I'm going to call EV delusions, things the EV fanboys tell themselves over and over again in order to keep the faith. Some are half-truths, others are outright nonsense. So in the first of these, I'm going to look at the 80% of EV owners charge at home delusion. So the claim is made that 80% of EV owners charge at home, so far less need for charging stations than fuel filling stations. This has kind of come about as a result of a couple of my previous videos where I've dealt with the problems of scalability of EV charging, and in order to counteract that, a few people have raised this 80% charge at home delusion. So here's an extract from an email I received just recently. According to the US Department of Energy, 80% of EV owners charge at home. This means that the vast majority of EV owners don't use public charging most of the time. Whereas 100% of ICE vehicles are completely dependent on filling stations, only 20% of EVs require a public charging station at any given time. Let's try and break this down. In Australia, for example, we've got about 15.3 million vehicles on the road. And as of the 1st of January this year, there was something like 72,000 EVs out of 15.3 million, which is literally 0.4% of all the vehicles on the road are EVs. So that group of EV owners are essentially a self-selecting group for many reasons. Firstly, they can afford to buy one to start with. Secondly, they probably have off-street parking with access to a power point. And thirdly, they probably have at least one other internal combustion engine vehicle for when the EV won't do. So for this self-selecting, well-off and environmentally conscious group, an EV probably makes a lot of sense if they're just doing runs to the shops, commuting and bringing the car home and charging it at night on the driveway. So it's not entirely surprising that at the moment 80% of EV owners are charging at home, because that is the use case for EVs. But this issue is going to change dramatically when people who are not in this self-selecting group are forced to get an EV themselves. Many people do not live in houses which have a driveway or off-street parking. They live in townhouses or terraced houses where the only parking is on the street. And at this stage, there's only token efforts to make charging available in this situation. I think there are a few on-street charging stations being rolled out in some of the suburbs of Sydney, but it's tiny. And then, of course, you've got the apartment owners who may have access to underground parking, but this, of course, opens up the whole issue of fire risk with dozens of EVs all charging up together beneath a block of apartments, and whether the insurance will allow such charging to take place. The inner west of Sydney, for example, has only about 30% detached properties. The majority is townhouses, semi-detached and apartments. Not all of those will have off-street parking. And whilst it's possible to rely on this 80% will charge at home delusion at the moment, when there's such a tiny subset of people owning EVs, the more EVs that are on the road and the more people that are forced to buy them who don't have the facilities for off-street parking or charging, the more pressure that's going to be put on public charging stations. And the points that I've made in those videos about the scalability of the infrastructure and the number of charging points that are going to be required to provide a decent throughput of cars is just going to be simply impractical. And the reality is that as time passes, more and more people will have to rely on public chargers and infrastructure that simply won't be able to cope. Anyway, that's just about it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you've got any tips, you can hit me up on Instagram or by email. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now.